The individual who does not get rid of his pride will suffer. Pride is before a crash, and a haughty spirit before stumbling. PR 16. 18. And the house of the self-exalted ones Jehovah will tear down. PR 15. 25. There are a number of examples of the crash that proud individuals, dynasties, and nations have suffered. PR 26. 18, 19. 2ch 26. 16. Issa 13. 19. J 13. 9. Es 30. 6, 18. 32. 12. Dar 5. 22, 23, 30. Pride is deceptive. The Apostle Paul counsels. If anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he is deceiving his own mind. G 6. 3. The proud person seems to be taking the way most beneficial or profitable for him, but he is leaving God out of account. Compare J 49. 16. 3. 17. The Bible says, better is it to be lowly in spirit with the meek ones than to divide spoil with the self-exalted ones. PR 16. 19. Boasting. The Greek verb ko. My boast is used frequently in the sense of selfish pride. The Bible shows that no man has any ground for boasting in himself or his accomplishments. In the Christian congregation at Corinth, some were puffed up with pride in themselves or in other men, bringing about divisions in the congregation. They were thinking in a fleshly way, looking to men instead of to Christ. 1 Co 1. 10-13. 3. 4. These men were not interested in the congregation's spiritual welfare, but they wanted to boast in outward appearances, not really wanting to help fellow Christians develop good hearts before God. 2 Co 5. 12. Consequently, the Apostle Paul severely reproved the congregation, showing that there was no room for them to be boasting in anyone but Jehovah God and what he had done for them. 1 Co 1. 28, 29. 4. 6, 7. The rule was, he that boasts, let him boast in Jehovah. 1 Co 1. 31. 2 Co 10. 17. Jesus' half-brother James went even further in condemning those who boasted about certain worldly projects they were intending to carry out, telling them, you take pride in yourself, assuming brags. All such taking of pride is wicked. Just 4. 13-16. Compare PR 27. 1. A good connotation. The Hebrew word ah, the Greek word ko my, and their related forms are also used in a favorable sense with reference to pride or delight that arises from an action or possession. The psalmist spoke of Israel as the pride of Jacob, whom Jehovah has loved. PS 47. For in the restoration prophecy Isaiah said that the fruitage of the land would be something to be proud of. Issa 4. 2. The apostle told the Thessalonian congregation that, as a result of their faith, love, and endurance, we ourselves take pride in you among the congregations of God. 2th 1. 3, 4. Christians are proud that Jehovah is their God, that they have come to know him. O textoi acute miritra longo, priest 683 to place, building altars and making sacrifices to Jehovah at his various places of encampment. GE 14. 14. 12. 7, 8. 13. For God said of Abraham, I have become acquainted with him in order that he may command his sons and his household after him so that they shall keep Jehovah's way to do righteousness and judgment. GE 18. 19. Isaac and Jacob followed the same pattern. GE 26. 25. 31. 54. 35. 1-7, 14, and Job, a non-Israelite but likely a distant relative of Abraham, regularly offered sacrifices to Jehovah in behalf of his children, saying, maybe my sons have sinned and have cursed God in their heart. Job 1. 4, 5. See also 42. 8. However, the Bible does not specifically call these men Cohen or High Royus. On the other hand, Jethro, the family head and the father-in-law of Moses, is called a priest Hen of Midian. Acts 2. 16. 3. 1. 18. 1. Melchizedek king of Salem was a priest Hen extraordinary. The Bible gives no record of his ancestry, his birth, or his death. His priesthood was not by inheritance, and he had no predecessors or successors in office. Melchizedek held both the office of king and of priest. His priesthood was greater than the Levitical priesthood, for Levi, in effect, paid tithes to Melchizedek, since he was still in the loins of Abraham when Abraham offered tithes to Melchizedek and was blessed by him. GE 14. 18-20. Heb 7. 4-10. In these things Melchizedek foreshadowed Jesus Christ, the priest forever according to the manner of Melchizedek. Heb 7. 17. Evidently the family heads acted as priests among the offspring of Jacob Israel until the Levitical priesthood was established by God. Hence, when God led the people to Mount Sinai he commanded, "Let the priests also who regularly come near to Jehovah sanctify themselves, that Jehovah may not break out upon them." Acts 19. 22. This was before the Levitical priesthood was established. But Aaron, though not yet designated as priest, was allowed to go partially up the mountain with Moses. This circumstance harmonized with the later appointment of Aaron and his posterity as priests. Acts 19. 24. Seen in retrospect, this was an early indication that God had in mind a superseding of the old arrangement of familial priesthood by means of a priesthood of Aaron's house. Under the law covenant, when the Israelites were in slavery in Egypt, Jehovah sanctified to himself every firstborn son of Israel at the time that he destroyed Egypt's firstborn in the 10th plague. Acts 12. 29. New 3. 13. These firstborn ones accordingly belonged to Jehovah, to be used exclusively in special service to him. God could have designated all of these firstborn males of Israel as the priests and caretakers of the sanctuary. Instead, it suited his purpose to take male members of the tribe of Levi for this service. For this reason he permitted the nation to substitute the Levite males for the firstborn males of the other 12 tribes, the offspring of Joseph's sons Ephraim and Manasseh being counted as 2 tribes. In a census there proved to be 273 more firstborn non-Levite sons from a month old and upward than there were Levite males, so God required a ransom price of 5 shekels $11 for each of the 273, the money being turned over to Aaron and his sons. New 3. 11-16. 40-51. Prior to this transaction Jehovah had already set apart the male members of the family of Aaron of the tribe of Levi as constituting the priesthood of Israel. New 1. 1. 3. 6-10. For a long period of time Israel had the exclusive opportunity to supply the members of a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Acts 19. 6. But that opportunity ceased to be exclusively theirs because of the national rejection of God's Son. Compare Mount 21. 43. 1 Pe 2. 7-10. Initially, Israel's king was Jehovah. Later Jehovah directed that the kingship be vested in the line of David. Jehovah was still their invisible king, but used the Davidic line as his representatives, as to textoi acute miritra longo, priest 684 be physically sound and of normal appearance. Otherwise he could not approach the altar with offerings, and he could not come near to the curtain between the holy and most holy compartments of the tabernacle. Such a one was entitled, however, to receive support from the Tad and could partake of the holy things provided as food for the priesthood. La 21. 16-23. The age for entering upon the priesthood is not specifically stated, although the census of the Kohathites, taken at Mount Sinai, included those from 30 to 50 years old. New 4. 3. The service of the Levites at the sanctuary began at age 25, reduced in King David's time to 20. New 8. 24. 1 ch 23. 24. Retirement of non-priestly Levites from obligatory service at the sanctuary was at 50 years, but there was no retirement provided for priests. New 8. 25, 26. See retirement. Maintenance. The tribe of Levi was not given a block of land as an inheritance, but they were scattered in Israel, receiving 48 cities in which to live with their families and cattle. 13 of these cities went to the priests. G 49. 5, 7. Jos 21. 1-11 One of the cities of refuge, Hebron, was a priestly city. Jos 21. 13 The Levites received no region as a tribal inheritance because, as Jehovah said, I am your share and your inheritance in the midst of the sons of Israel. New 18. 20 The Levites did the assigned work of their ministry and maintained their houses in the pasture grounds of the cities allotted to them. They would also care for other land that the Israelites might devote to sanctuary use. Law 27. 21, 28 Jehovah provided for the Levites by arranging for them to receive a tithe of all the produce of the land from the other 12 tribes. New 18. 21-24 Of this tithe, or tenth, the Levites were, in turn, to give a tenth of the very best as a tithe to the priesthood. New 18. 25-29. NE 10. 38, 39 The priesthood would thereby receive 1% of the national produce, enabling them to devote all their time to their assigned service of God. This provision for the priesthood, though abundant, was in contrast to the luxury and financial power attained by the priesthood of pagan nations. In Egypt, for example, the priests owned portions of the land G 47. 22, 26 And by crafty maneuvering eventually were the richest and most powerful men in Egypt. James H. Breasted, in A History of the Ancient Egyptians 1908, pages 355, 356, 431, 432, records that during the so-called 20th dynasty the pharaoh was reduced to a mere puppet. The priesthood had possession of the Nubian Gold Country and the great province of the Upper Nile. The high priest was the most important fiscal officer of the state, next to the chief treasurer himself. He commanded all the armies and held the treasury in his hands. He is represented more prominently in the monuments than the pharaoh. It was only when Israel became lax in their worship and negligent in paying their tithes that the priesthood suffered, along with non-priestly Levites, who had to look for other work to provide for themselves and their families. In turn, this bad attitude toward the sanctuary and its maintenance caused the nation to suffer still further for lack of spirituality and knowledge of Jehovah. NE 13. 10-13. See also Mal 3. 8-10. The priesthood received 1. The regular tithe. 2. The redemption money for a firstborn male child or beast. In the case of a firstborn bull, male lamb, or goat, they received the flesh for food. New 18. 14-19 3. The redemption money for men and things sanctified as holy and also the things devoted to Jehovah. La 27 4. Certain parts of the various offerings brought by the people, as well as the showbread. La 6. 25, 26, 29. 7. 6-10. New 18. 8-14 5. Benefit from the offerings of the best of the first ripe fruits of grain, wine, and oil. X 23. 19. La 2. 14-16. 22. 10. Stranger in the latter text means one not a priest. La 14. 22-27. 26. 1-10 Except for O texto e acute miritra longo, priest 685 Regulations and functions. The priests were required to maintain personal fleshly cleanliness and high moral standards. When entering the tent of meeting and before presenting an offering at the altar, they were to wash their hands and feet at the basin in the courtyard that they might not die. X 30. 17-21. 40. 30-32 With similar warning they were commanded not to drink wine or intoxicating liquor when serving at the sanctuary. La 10. 8-11 They could not defile themselves by touching a corpse or mourning for the dead. This would make them temporarily unclean for service. The under-priests but not the high priest might do so, however, for one in very close family relationship. Mother, father, son, daughter, brother, or virgin sister who was close to apparently, living with or near him. Also the wife was possibly included as one close to him. La 21. 1-4 Any priest who became unclean, by leprosy, by a running discharge, or by a corpse or other unclean thing, could not eat of the holy things or perform sanctuary service until cleansed, otherwise he must die. 22. 1-9. The priests were commanded not to shave their heads or the extremities of their beards, or to make cuttings in themselves, practices common among pagan priests. 21. 5, 6. 19. 28. 1 Kai 18. 28. While the high priest could marry only a virgin girl, the under-priests could marry a widow, but not a divorced woman or a prostitute. 21. 7, 8. Compare 21. 10, 13, 14. Evidently, all the members of the high priest's family were to uphold the high standard of morality and the dignity due the priest's office. Thus, a priest's daughter who became a prostitute was to be put to death, being burned afterward as something detestable to God. 21. 9. When in the wilderness, at the time of moving camp, it was the duty of Aaron and his sons to cover the holy furniture and utensils in the tent of meeting before the other Kohathites were allowed to come in to carry them, so that the Kohathites would not die. Likewise they uncovered and set up these things in the tent at the new location. New 4. 5-15. On the march, the priests carried the Ark of the Covenant. Jos 3. 3, 13, 15, 17. 1 Kai 8. 3-6. The priests were responsible for blowing the holy trumpets, thus giving definite leadership to the people, whether in the matter of setting up or breaking camp, assembling, engaging in battle, or celebrating some festival to Jehovah. New 10. 1-10. The priests and Levites were exempt from military conscription, though they did serve as blowers of the trumpets and singers before the army. New 1. 47-49. 2. 33. Jos 6. 4. 2 ch 13. 12. When the priests were on assignment at the sanctuary, their duties included the slaughtering of sacrifices brought by the people, sprinkling the blood on the altar, cutting up the sacrifices, keeping the altar fire burning, cooking the meat, and accepting all other offerings, such as the grain offerings. They were to take care of matters dealing with uncleannesses contracted by individuals, as well as their special vows, and so forth. The chaps 1-7. 12. 6. Chaps 13-15. New 6. 1-21. Lu 2. 22-24. They took care of the morning and evening burnt offerings and all other sacrifices regularly made at the sanctuary except those that it was the high priest's duty to offer. They burned incense on the golden altar. X 29. 38-42. New 28. 1-10. 2 ch 13. 10, 11. They trimmed the lamps and kept them supplied with oil. X 27. 20, 21. And took care of the holy oil and the incense. New 4. 16. They blessed the people at the solemn assemblies in the manner outlined at Numbers 6. 22-27. But no other priest could be in the sanctuary when the high priest went into the most holy to make atonement. The 16. 17. The priests were primarily the ones privileged to explain God's law, and they played a major role in Israel's judiciary. In the cities allotted to them the priests were available to assist the judges. O texto e acute miritra longo. Priest 686. The priestly administration served as a safeguard to the nation in religious cleanness as also in physical health. The priest was to judge between the clean and the unclean in cases of leprosy of a man, a garment, or a house. He saw to it that the legal quarantine regulations were carried out. He also officiated in the cleansing of those who had been defiled by a dead body or were unclean from morbid discharges, and so forth. The 13-15. How were the assignments of temple service for the priests in Israel determined? Of the 24 divisions, or courses, of the priests established by King David, 16 were made up from the house of Eleazar and 8 from the house of Itamar. 1 ch 24. 1-19. However, at least initially, priests from only 4 of the divisions returned from the Babylonian exile. As 2. 36-39. Some suggest that, In order to continue the former organizational arrangement, the 4 families returning were divided so that there were again 24 courses. Alfred Edersheim, in the Temple 1874, p. 63, suggests that it was accomplished by each family's drawing 5 lots for those who had not returned, thereby forming from their groups 20 more courses to which they gave the original names. John the Baptist's father Zachariah was a priest of the 8th division, that of Abijah. However, if the above view represents the true case, he may not have been a descendant of Abijah. He may have merely belonged to the division which carried his name. 1 Ch 24. 10. Boo 1. 5. Absence of full information does not allow for firm conclusions on these points. In the temple service the priests were organized under various offices. Lots were drawn in assigning certain services. Each of the 24 divisions served 1 week at a time, being on assigned duty twice a year. Evidently the entire priesthood served at festival seasons when thousands of sacrifices were offered by the people, as they did at the temple dedication. 1 Ch 24. 1-18, 31. 2 Ch 5. 11. Compare 2 Ch 29. 31-35. 30. 23-25. 35. 10-19. A priest might serve at other times as long as he did not interfere with the allotted services of the priests on assigned duty. According to rabbinic traditions, in the time of Jesus' earthly life, the priests were numerous, so that the service of the week was subdivided among the various families making up the division, each family serving 1 or more days according to their number. Probably considered the most honorable of the daily services was the burning of incense on the golden altar. This was done after the sacrifice was offered. During the burning of incense, the people would be gathered outside the sanctuary in prayer. Rabbinic tradition is that lots were drawn for this service, but that one who had previously officiated was not allowed to participate unless all present had performed the service before. The Temple, pages 135, 137, 138. If this is so, a priest would usually have the honor only once in a lifetime. It was this service that Zachariah was performing when the angel Gabriel appeared to him to announce that Zachariah and his wife Elizabeth would have a son. When Zachariah came out of the sanctuary, the crowd gathered there could discern by his appearance and his inability to speak that Zachariah had seen a supernatural sight in the sanctuary. Thus the event became public knowledge. Boo 1. 8-23. Each Sabbath day, it appears, the priests had the privilege of changing the showbread. It was also on the Sabbath that the priestly division for that week completed its service and the new course began duty for the following week. These and other necessary duties were performed by the priests without constituting a breaking of the Sabbath. Mount 12. 2-5. Compare 1 Sa 21. 6. 2 Chiotextoi acute muritra longo. Priest 687. Priest was also used occasionally to denote a lieutenant or chief minister or official. In the list of the chief officers serving under King David the record reads, "As for the sons of David, they became priests." 2 Sa 8. 18. Compare 2 Sa 20. 26. 1 Chi 4. 5. 1 Ch 18. 17. The Christian priesthood. Jehovah had promised that if Israel kept his covenant they would become to him a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Acts 19. 6. However, the priesthood of Aaron's line was to continue only until the coming of the greater priesthood that it foreshadowed. Hab 8. 4, 5. It would endure until the ending of the law covenant and the inauguration of the new covenant. Hab 7. 11-14. 8. 6, 7, 13. The offer was first made exclusively to Israel to become Jehovah's priests serving in God's promised kingdom arrangement. In time this offer was extended to the Gentiles. Act 10. 34, 35. 15. 14. Row 10. 21. Only a remnant of the Jews accepted Christ, the nation thereby failing to provide the members of the real kingdom of priests and the holy nation. Row 11. 7, 20 Because of Israel's unfaithfulness, God had forewarned them of this by his prophet Hosea centuries before, saying, "Because the knowledge is what you yourself have rejected, I shall also reject you from serving as a priest to me. And because you keep forgetting the law of your God, I shall forget your sons," even Aho 4. 6 Correspondingly, Jesus told the Jewish leaders, "The kingdom of God will be taken from you and be given to a nation producing its fruits." Mount 21. 43 Nevertheless, Jesus Christ, being under the law while on earth, recognized the Aaronic priesthood as being in force, and he directed ones whom he cured of leprosy to go to the priest and make the required offering. Mount 8. 4. Mr. 1. 44. Lu 17. 14. On Pentecost Day of the year 33 CE the law covenant came to an end and the better covenant, the new covenant, was inaugurated. Heb 8. 6-9 On that day God made manifest this change by the outpouring of Holy Spirit. The Apostle Peter then explained to the Jews present from many nations that their only salvation now lay in repentance and acceptance of Jesus Christ. Act 2. Heb 2. 1-4 Later, Peter spoke of the Jewish builders rejecting Jesus Christ as the cornerstone and then said to Christians, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for special possession." 1 Pe 2. 7-9. Peter explained also that the new priesthood is a spiritual house for the purpose of a holy priesthood, who offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. 1 Pe 2. 5 Jesus Christ is their great high priest, and they, like Aaron's sons, make up the under-priesthood. Heb 3. 1. 8. 1 Yet, different from the Aaronic priesthood, which had no part in kingship and priesthood are combined in this royal priesthood of Christ and his joint heirs. In the Bible book of Revelation the Apostle John speaks of the followers of Jesus Christ as loosed from our sins by means of his own blood, and says that he made us to be a kingdom, priests to his God and Father. Re 1. 5, 6. This last book of the Bible also reveals the number composing the body of under-priests. Those whom Jesus Christ made to be a kingdom and priests to our God are shown as singing a new song in which they say that they were bought by Christ's blood. Re 5. 9, 10 Further on, the ones singing the new song are enumerated as 144,000 persons bought from among mankind as first fruits to God and to the Lamb. Re 14. 1-5 Finally the Sunday priesthood is shown as being resurrected to heaven and joining Jesus Christ in his rule, becoming priests of God and of the Christ and ruling as kings with Christ during his 1,000-year reign. Re 20. 4, 6. By comparing the priesthood of Israel, as well as its functions and benefits to the people of that nation Heb 8. 5, we can get some idea of the benefits and blessings to be received. O text acute miritra longo, priest 688 Israel, when the kingdom and priesthood were faithfully to God, during which time Judah and Israel were many, like the grains of sand that are by the sea for multitude, eating and drinking and rejoicing, and dwelling in security, everyone under his own vine and under his own fig tree. 1 Kai 4. 20, 25. Pagan priests. The ancient nations had priests through whom they made approach to their gods. These men were reverenced by the people and always wielded great influence, generally being among the ruling class, or being close advisors to the rulers. The priesthood was the most educated class and generally held the people in ignorance. In this way they were able to prey on the superstition of the people and their fear of the unknown. In Egypt, for example, the people were led to worship the Nile River as a god, viewing their priests as possessing divine control over its seasonal overflow, on which their crops depended. This encouragement of superstitious ignorance was in direct contrast to Israel's priests, who constantly read and taught the law to the entire nation. Each man was to know God in his law. 6. 1-3 The people themselves were able to read and write, being commanded by Jehovah to read and teach his law to their children. 6. 4-9. Not the pattern for Israel's priesthood. In spite of these facts, there are some who claim that the priesthood of Israel and the formulation of many of its regulations were patterned after those of Egypt. They argue that Moses, the mediator of the law covenant, was deeply influenced by his life in Egypt, his training in the court of Pharaoh, and his instruction in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. Acts 7:22. Their line of argument, however, ignores the fact that Moses, though used to deliver the law to Israel, was in no sense the lawmaker. Israel's lawgiver was Jehovah God. Issa 33:22, who used angels to transmit the law by the hand of the mediator Moses. 3:19. Every detail of Israel's worship was outlined by God. The plans for the tent of meeting were given to Moses. Acts 26:30, and it is written that he was commanded, "See that you make all things after their pattern that was shown to you in the mountain." Hajj 8:5. Acts 25:40. All the service at the sanctuary was of Jehovah's origination and direction. The record repeatedly assures us of this by saying that Moses and the sons of Israel kept doing according to all that Jehovah had commanded Moses. They did just so. According to all that Jehovah had commanded Moses, that was the way the sons of Israel did all the service. And Moses got to see all the work, and, look, they had done it just as Jehovah had commanded. That was the way they had done. And Moses proceeded to do according to all that Jehovah had commanded him. He did just so. Acts 39:32, 42, 43, 40. 16. According to Egyptologists, in some things the dress of the Egyptian priests was similar to that of the priests of Israel, such as their use of linen. There was a shaving of the bodies of the Egyptian priests, as with all Levites, though the priests of Israel did not. New 8:7. There were washings. But do these few similarities prove that they had the same origin, or that one came from the other? Similar materials and methods are used worldwide in making clothing, houses, and buildings and in performing daily duties, such as washing, but there is great divergence also in style and methods. We do not say that one came from the other, or that the dress or the act has the same religious or symbolic significance. In most features of their dress and functions there was no similarity whatsoever between the Israelite and the Egyptian priests. For example, while the Israelite priests served barefoot, the Egyptian priests wore sandals. The robes of the Egyptian priests were entirely different in design, and their dress and appurtenances bore symbols of the worship of their false gods. They shaved their heads, O textoi acute miritra longo, prison 689. Defeat and humiliation. Acts 8:18, 19. 9. 11. The worshippers of Molech of Ammon sacrificed their sons and daughters by burning them in the fire. 1 Kai 11. 5. 2 Kai 23. 10. Law 18. 21. 20. 2-5 Baal worshippers of the Canaanites followed the same detestable practice, also performing self-laceration and lewd, disgusting, immoral rites. New 25. 1-3. 1 Kai 18. 25-28. J 19. 5. The priests of the Philistine god Dagon and the Babylonian priests of Marduk, Bel, and Ishtar practiced magic and divination. 1-6. 2-9. Es 21. 21. Da 2. 2, 27. 4. 7, 9. All of them worshipped images made of wood, stone, and metal. Even King Jeroboam of the 10-tribe kingdom of Israel set up priests to direct the worship of golden calves and goat-shaped demons to prevent the people from engaging in true worship at Jerusalem. 2 Ch 11. 15. 13. 9. See also Micah number 1. Unauthorized priesthoods condemned by God. Jehovah was unalterably opposed to all these forms and practices, which actually constituted the worship of demons. 1 Co 10. 20. 18. 9-13. Issa 8. 19. Re 22. 15. Whenever these gods or the priesthood representing them came into open defiance of Jehovah, they were humiliated. 1 Sa 5. 1-5. Da 2. 2, 7-12, 29, 30. 5. 15 Often their priests and prophets suffered death. 1 Kai 18. 40. 2 Kai 10. 19, 25-28. 11. 18. 2 Ch 23. 17 And since Jehovah recognized no priesthood aside from that of the house of Aaron during the existence of the law covenant, it follows that what Aaron's office foreshadowed, namely, the priesthood of Jesus Christ, who is also the greater high priest according to the manner of Melchizedek, is the only way of approach to Jehovah. Act 4. 12. Heb 4. 14. 1 Joe 2. 1. To any priesthood that opposes this God-ordained king priest and his under priesthood is to be avoided by true worshippers of God. 18. 18, 19. Act 3. 22, 23. Re 18. 4, 24. See High Priest. Priest cities. Locations in the Promised Land that were set aside as places of residence for the Aaronic priests and their families. Of the 48 cities given to the tribe of Levi by Israel's other tribes, 13 were assigned to the Kohathite priests of Aaron's family. Joes 21. 1-42. 1 Ch 6. 54-81 The tribes of Judah and Simeon gave them 9 cities, and 4 were given by the tribe of Benjamin. Thus, all the cities of the sons of Aaron, the priests, were 13 cities and their pasture grounds. Joes 21. 4, 9-19 These cities were Hebron, a city of refuge, Libnah, Yatire, Eshtemoa, Holin, apparently Hilon, Geber, Anashan, Jutah, Bethshemesh, Gibeon, Cheba, Anathoth, and Almon-Almeth, all except Jutah and Gibeon again being named at 1 Chronicles 6. 54-60. David sent word to priests in their various cities to gather together when he was about to bring the Ark of Jehovah to Jerusalem. 1 Ch 13. 1-5 And specific reference is made to the appointment of men to distribute contributed portions to their priestly brothers residing in priest cities during King Hezekiah's reign. 2 Ch 31. 11-19. Prince. See leader, noble, prince. Prisca old woman. Priscilla middle. Silla little old woman. The shorter form of the name is found in Paul's writings, the longer form in Luke's. Such a variation was common in Roman names. Priscilla was the wife of Aquila, with whom she is always mentioned. The two showed fine Christian works and hospitality not only to individuals, but also to the congregation by having congregation meetings in their home in both Rome and Ephesus. Because of Emperor Claudius' decree, Aquila and his wife left Rome and went to Corinth in about 50 CE. Not long after their arrival, Paul joined them in tent-making. Act 18. 2, 3 They traveled on with Paul to Ephesus, remained there for a time, and were instrumental in expounding the way of God more correctly to the eloquent Apollos. Act 18. 18, 19, 24-28. 1 Co 16. 19 Returning to Rome for a time. Row 16. 3-5 They later traveled back to Ephesus. 2 T4. 19. 1 T1. 3 Their personal otextoi acute miritra longo procession 690 assigned to wait upon those who had held prominent positions before their confinement. GE 39. 21. 40. 4. Prisons date back at least to the 18th century BCE, for it was then that Joseph was wrongly confined to the jail that was connected to the house of the chief of the bodyguard. GE 39. 20. 40. 3. 41. 10th This Egyptian jail apparently had a dungeon, or hole shaped like a cistern, where some prisoners were kept. GE 40. 15. 41. 14. Compare Issa 24. 22. The Mosaic law did not provide for prisons as a form of punishment, since justice was to be executed swiftly. Joe 7. 20, 22-25, only in cases requiring divine clarification do we read in the Pentateuch of individuals being committed into custody. La 24. 12. New 15. 34 Eventually, however, places of imprisonment came to be used by the Israelites. The prophet Jeremiah, for example, was held in the house of fetters, in the house of Jehonathan. This place of confinement had vaulted rooms, perhaps dungeon cells. Conditions were so bad there that Jeremiah feared for his life. Jer 37. 15-20 Subsequently he was transferred to the courtyard of the guard, where he got a daily allowance of bread, could receive visitors, and was able to conduct business transactions. Jer 32. 2, 8, 12. 37. 21. See also 1 Car 22. 27. 2 Ch 16. 10. Heb 11. 36. In the 1st century CE, according to Roman custom, the jailers or guards were held personally accountable for prisoners. Act 12. 19 Therefore, the jailer in Philippi, believing that his prisoners had escaped, was ready to commit suicide. Act 16. 27 For security measures, guards were often stationed at prison doors, and prisoners might have their feet put in stocks or have their hands chained to those guarding them. Act 5. 23. 12. 6-10. 16. 22-24 Some prisoners were allowed visitors. Mount 25. 36. Act 23. 35. 24. 23, 27. 28. 16-31. See Bond. Jailer. As foretold by Christ Jesus, many of his followers experienced imprisonment. Luke 21. 12. Act 26. 10. Row 16. 7. Col 4. 10. Heb 10. 34. 13. 3 The Apostle John, in exile on the Isle of Patmos, wrote that imprisonment would continue to be a form of persecution of Christians. Re 2. 10. Figurative use. In a figurative sense, prison can refer to a land of exile as was Babylon, or to a state of spiritual bondage or confinement. Isla 42. 6, 7. 48. 20. 49. 5, 8, 9. 61. 1. Mount 12. 15-21. Bu 4. 17-21. 2 Co 6. 1, 2 Though the spirit creatures who were disobedient in Noah's day do not have physical bodies that can be held by material restraints, they have been limited in their activities and are in a state of dense darkness with reference to Jehovah God, as if in a prison. 1 P 3. 19. Jude 6. See Tartarus. Also, the abyss in which Satan will be shut up for 1,000 years is a prison, a place of death-like restraint or confinement. Re 20. 1-3, 7. Procession. See Triumphal Procession. Prochorus proco middle dot rus possibly from a gr. Root meaning go or dance before in a chorus. One of the 7 certified men full of spirit and wisdom appointed to assure equal treatment in the daily distribution of food in the 1st century Christian congregation at Jerusalem. Act 6. 1-6. Proconsul. Principal local administrator of a province that was under the supervision of the Roman Senate. In 27 BCE Emperor Augustus of Rome took charge of all provinces requiring the presence of military forces, leaving 10 others as senatorial provinces. The administration of the latter was carried out through proconsuls. The proconsuls were of 2 classes. Ex-consuls, those who had already attained the rank of consul, who were sent to the provinces of Asia and Africa where a legionary force was maintained, and ex-praetors, sent to the other senatorial provinces. It was the proconsul's responsibility to direct the civil affairs of the province, make judicial decisions, and maintain law and order. His jurisdiction was supreme in the province, although his actions o textoi acute miritra longo, prophecy 691 thought conveyed by the root verbs in the original language is heb. Na middle.ve. Gr. Pro middle.phi middle.tero. Yet it forms an outstanding feature of Bible prophecy. See Prophet. Illustrating the sense of the original words are these examples. When Ezekiel in a vision was told to prophesy to the wind, he simply expressed God's command to the wind. S37. 9, 10 When individuals at Jesus' trial covered him, slapped him, and then said,